Okay. Good morning. They asked me to, I got a call last night at 10 o'clock from Dr. Kevin Carson, a friend of mine. It's really kind of funny. We had a group that's going to speak. I don't even know who they are, from Kansas City, not Ganshow, somebody else. And they were going to teach. They're the original people that were teaching, and some family thing came up and they couldn't be here. So, okay. So, this was Thursday? Thursday, Tom calls me. Dr. Pastor Lee calls me. I call him Tom. I've known Tom for over 30 years. And to be honest with you, for those of you that are from Sunday breakfast, when I first met Tom, I couldn't stand him. I thought, he is the biggest jerk I ever met. This stinking know-it-all jerk. I barely liked him. And then I found out that he really does know all that stuff. And I just always pictured him as the kid in high school that had the pocket protector that probably got beat up a lot. So, and I tell him this, so I'm not talking behind his back, I tell him this. And so that little nerdy kid, and I wasn't the jock in school, I was in the stoners class, so I was the guy that's party on. So, anyway, that's where I was. I was more of a Garth guy, like whatever happens, happens. I was pretty stoned most of the time in high school until they finally asked me to go into the Army instead of graduation. So I never graduated high school. Yet I have three master's degrees, and a bachelor's degree, and if I ever get my dissertation done, I'll have a doctorate. But I do not have a high school diploma, and I don't have a GED, but nobody cared then. And all this really kind of leads up to where it was. So when I first met Tom, I thought, this guy's arrogant, I can't deal with him. Then, yeah, I can honestly say Tom is probably my best friend. I love. Other than I'm pretty fond of Greg Wood as well. Greg's my other buddy, but we kind of get in a lot of trouble together. But the best friends I have are rescue. I mean, the only friends I have are rescue. All you rescue folks are my friends. And don't look at me as that's a director guy. I'm just a guy. I'm kind of like D.L. Moody, who was listening to, I want to say Wilbur Chapman preach. And he was preaching on, God's looking for a guy who gives all of his heart and his soul and his mind to do his work. And D.L. Moody went to his room and took a piece of chalk and drew a circle and stood in it and said, God, make me that guy. And look what he did as shoe salesman. If it wasn't for D.L. Moody, you would have never heard of a Sunday school. If it wasn't for D.L. Moody, there's thousands got saved. If it wasn't for D.L. Moody, you wouldn't have, I'll give you an example, okay? So a shoe salesman led D.L. Moody to the Lord. D.L. Moody was preaching and led a guy to the Lord in England named Gypsy Smith. He was a young boy, a gypsy. Okay, Gypsy Smith became a great preacher, and he influenced a guy named Mordecai Ham, a Messianic Jew that was saved. Guess who Mordecai Ham led to the Lord? Billy Graham. Now think of that. What if he wouldn't have been that guy? My wife did not give me a handkerchief again. I have to tell her about that again. I always cry when I preach. But I'm not preaching, I'm teaching. But we're talking this session. I'm going to deal with depression on this session, and the next session I'm going to deal with suffering. They kind of go hand in hand. I know a lot about depression because I've walked the walk. That was a time in my life I was severely depressed. I had just come back from, I was telling our brother that taught Sunday school this morning, where he taught at Olivet Nazarene in Illinois, which isn't far. He lives in Kankakee, which is not far from where I went to school up in northwest Indiana. And we were talking about, I went to a school, it's called Fairhaven Baptist College, and it's like, you heard of Bob Jones University? We were to the right of Bob Jones, okay? They were really, we were independent fundamental Baptists. You know how many independent Baptists it takes to change a light bulb? One, because they will not work with anybody else. They won't work with anybody else. When I was an independent Baptist in York, Pennsylvania, the York Rescue Mission was right there. We wouldn't even we wouldn't go to the door and meet Brother Gorog, who was the old director. I think he's passed. But anyway, we wouldn't even go there because we were independent Baptists. We weren't like them. We were King James only. Women never wear pants. Don't have a TV. I still don't have a TV. I don't have time for it. But you know, all these rules. And I live good by rules. I'm a military guy. So I had just come back from combat, basically. I had literally been in combat and just 4 months before I got out. Now I'm in the civilian world and have to figure out everything. So I'm in school, and you know, I went through a really black time in my life. And the military tried to fix me by giving me a bunch of drugs. And that I didn't like them. I didn't like how they made me feel. My wife didn't like how I felt. I was on Zoloft and Boost Bar, and I can't even remember everything I was on. I was on so many different ones. And but I really dealt with depression. And we see in 1 Samuel chapter 1. Okay, who's got their Bible? Because I don't want to jump out of this program in and out. I didn't bring my Bible with me. I know, shame. Anyone who's got a Bible, open up 1 Samuel chapter 1 and read verses 6 and 8. 6 through 8. That's fine, whenever. Whoever's there first. I would do the guys of the program. Whoever gets there first, start reading.
Samuel 1.
Beginning in verse 6 and go to verse 8.
And her rival used to provoke her, grievously to irritate her.
About Hannah.
Okay, yep, irritate her because the Lord had closed her womb. So it went on year by year, as often as she went up to the house of the Lord, she used to provoke her. Therefore Hannah wept and would not eat. And
Elkanah, her husband.
Her husband said to her, Hannah, why do you weep, and why do you not eat, and why is your heart sad? Am I not more to you than 10 sons?
Okay, let's set the picture. Here's Hannah, Elkanah's wife, the mother of Samuel. The greatest prophet ever was Samuel. So she's got a rival in her house because Elkanah had married 2 wives. She had had several children. Hannah had had 0. And so this one was lording over her the fact that she had children she was not able to. But if you notice, this is the Lord shut her womb. Sometimes God does things that we don't understand. That's the sovereignty of God. We don't understand everything that's going to happen to us in this earth. Some of that we'll talk about in the next class on suffering if you stay with me. We're moving rooms, but if you stay with me. We say, I'm a Christian. Why am I depressed? Why am I depressed? You know, depression and despair have afflicted the strongest of us. Charles Spurgeon, I've got a book on Charles Spurgeon about his depression. There are dungeons beneath the castles of despair. This is what he said. There's dungeons beneath the castle of despair. So I'm in the castle of despair. I'm in the dungeon underneath the castle of despair. Been there? It's no secret that Spurgeon suffered these dark periods of anguish, because on one Sunday morning he stood to preach out of Isaiah chapter 4 and verse 14 and began his message by admitting that his depression and despair and the need of prayers. He said that in his sermon. He said, I need you to pray for me. I'm depressed. John Knox, Lord knows he was a preacher under the reign of Bloody Mary, who killed Protestants like crazy. He was depressed, and one day he said, Lord Jesus, will you please receive my spirit and take me from this miserable life? Adoniram Judson, let me see if I can get to this real quick, because this is really interesting. I clipped this. See if I can get to it real quick. See if I can get there. Aren't computers wonderful? Yeah. Okay, Adoniram Judson had become a political prisoner because he was in Burma, in India. It was all India at the time, Burma, but they were at war with Britain. And so he became a prisoner of war because he was an Englishman, and so they thought, well, he's a spy. So he was in prison for a long time. And one time they made him walk like 17 miles to another prison with no shoes on this rocky, thorny ground. Tore his feet up. He had to be carried the last 2 or 3 miles. And he said he didn't even look like a human when he got there. But so then after he went through this, his wife and child die. And he's just there trying to give these people the gospel. And he goes through all this stuff. So what he did was, and I'll just read this. Adoniram, overcome with grief for over a year, he lived in a retreat in the woods. He went and built this cabin in the woods, mourning his wife and struggling with his own past pride and ambition. He even dug his own grave. I thought that was interesting. He dug his own grave and he sat in it. He sat in it. Every day he went and he sat in his grave. That's what he did. And he would lie in it and he would pretend he was dead. What would it be like if I was dead? That's how depressed he was. And he says, God is to me the great unknown. I believe in him, but I find him not. That's depression. Give me 1 second, please. So, even Abraham Lincoln said, I'm the most miserable man living. This is wild. If what I feel were equally distributed among the whole human family, there would not be one cheerful face. That's like, nobody knows the trouble I see, right? Nobody knows but Jesus. Winston Churchill was a man of wrestling with deep depression. He was really depressed. I read a book of him. He was picked on as a child. He was like, nobody likes me, everybody hates me, I guess I'll eat some worms guy. Okay? So, what causes depression and how do we deal with it? Are we just going to go load ourselves up with drugs? I don't know about you, but I have this big problem at the shelter, at the rescue mission. Okay? A guy comes on the program. He comes in with a toothbrush and a baggie. That's all he's got. Okay? The next thing I know, he's got hooked up with, we have this secular service in our town, and I don't know how they find these guys, called family counseling. They are the drug distributing kings. They get this guy, and all of a sudden the guy comes back to the mission with a suitcase of medicine. And so I'm looking at the medicine. We have 3 types of medicine you can have at the mission: green light, yellow light, and red light. Green light is something like an aspirin. You're on, what do you take that? Claritin, insulin. Oh, we want you to please take your insulin if you're supposed to take it. We want you to please. We don't want anybody going diabetic coma on us. Please take your insulin. Those type of normal drugs you can take. Then we got the yellow drugs, the yellow caution. I kind of put Zoloft into that category. That's a mood enhancer, the mood stabilizer, or an enhancer, whichever way you want to call it. Another one would be Boost Bar or Boosterin. Those are in the yellow category, so they can be taken with my understanding that you're taking them. And then I try to work with the client to not be on those drugs. But I never, listen to me, you never heard me say this. I never tell a client, don't take your drugs. I am not a medical doctor, and you are not either, unless you are. Okay? If you are, you can do it. I never, let me tell you something. You'll open yourself up to a bunch of problems if you tell someone not to take the drugs. Don't do it. Now, what I do, I have this guy named Doc. He's actually, he doesn't work for us, but he does work for us because he's on a total disability. He has a lot of seizures. So he's on some drugs that are, fairly powerful. But I understand this. I work with him. He does a lot of our maintenance stuff around the mission. But when he first came to us, he was literally on Thorazine. He was on Meloril. He was on about 3 or 4 other drugs. And I just looked at him. I said, brother, I said, if you think you're going to sleep this program for a year, you're going to lay in bed for a year, and I'm going to give you a certificate of graduation, ain't happening. This is not good for you. I worked with him and his doctor, and we slowly got him off all that stuff. He's not on any of that stuff now. He's on what he needs to be on. But the problem is the world's philosophy, if you're depressed, we just give you some medicine. You know, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but what's emotional and spiritual causes of depression? Because, okay, I'm a biblical counselor. I'm always going to look in the Bible for the answer. Okay, that's where I'm going first. And Moses was so overwhelmed by the griping of the people, he felt helpless. He was broken in pieces. He was good for nothing. He even asked the Lord in Numbers, take my life. I can't deal with this. That's depression. So Moses asked the Lord, why have you brought such trouble to your servant? Why are you angry with me? Why do you burden me with all these people? Did I conceive these people? Are these my children? Did I give birth to them so you should tell me, carry them on your breast, as a nanny carries a baby, to the land where you swore to give their fathers? Where can I get meat to give all these people? For they are weeping to me, give us meat, give us meat. I can't carry these people by myself. It's too much for me. If you're going to treat me like this, please kill me right now. If I have found favor with you, don't let me be in misery any longer. Man, that's pretty wild. I'm glad God doesn't answer all of our prayers, right? That wasn't the right. But so what happened was, if you remember the story, God gave him wisdom to get overseers to help him take the load off of him, to help him, and got these men. You do this, and you do that, and you do that. Sometimes we're carrying the load all of ourselves, and it gets very depressing because we think we're the only one. Remember Elijah? I'm the only one that serves God. And God finally basically in vernacular says, shut up, you idiot. I got 3,000 people that never bowed their knee to Baal hidden back over here. You're not the only one. There's other people too. I'm the only rescue mission in my whole area that cares about anybody. That's not true. What problem is sometimes we're taking on too much for ourselves. That brings about depression. You're trying to do too much because you can't do it all. You really can't. Moses had to learn he had to have help. I have to have help. I live by the adage, I'd rather just do it myself. Because if I do it myself, I know it's going to get done right. I'm not a micromanager, though. I hate to micromanage. If I hire Lamont, if I hire Lamont to do, you're my kitchen supervisor. And I find out every day I got to go in and do the inventory and find out what we got. Pretty soon I'm saying, why I need him? I'm just going to let you go and I'm going to get your money because I might as well, because I'm the kitchen manager too. So I don't believe in micromanaging. I used to micromanage. When I was, the military has an axiom. It says you can only expect what you inspect. And so I was like, I'm going to stay on you. But now I'm pretty loose. I'm getting older. I'm like, Lamont, just, every day I walk in, breakfast and lunch and dinner's there. It looks good to me, Guys come, he had spaghetti 3 weeks in a row. Well, I don't know. He understands what he's doing. Yeah, maybe there's a reason. Maybe we have an overabundance of it and we have to use it up. What's a funny story? We had a truck wreck on the I-5 right by the rescue mission in California, and it's full of swinging beef. You know what swinging beef is? That's beef that's in a freezer truck. That's giant beef, half a beef, hung. Well, a local butcher got a call that said, look, they can't sell this meat. I'll cut it up for you because I'm the butcher. That's what I'll do if you'll take it. We took it. You know what a 58-foot truck full of swinging beef is? Thousands of pounds. And we're talking about prime steaks. So we were feeding steaks out every day. Every day. Every day. We had steak and eggs. Every morning we had steak and eggs. Every morning. So my office, we had this little awning where people would come in when it rained and stuff. During the daytime, that part of the mission, the yard, we called it the yard, would be open. My office set right off. I could hear everything going on out there, but that's okay. That's part of mission work. I heard these two guys complaining. What'd they have for dinner? Oh, man, they had, blankety blank steak and eggs again. And it's like, really? I'm thinking to myself, wow, what a life. You're at steak and eggs so much you're complaining about it. Disobedience is another reason we fall into depression. And when I'm not speaking to you, I'm speaking, you can take these. This is something I bring to our men. I teach our men this. Look at all the guilt that Saul brought upon himself by the sin that was in his life. Look at David. David's sitting, he's all fat, dumb, and happy. He thought he had made the perfect crime. And then Nathan comes to him and says, yo, I got a problem. He says, what do you mean? He goes, oh, man, you ain't going to believe it. There's this guy over here. He's got like 500 sheep, and he's got a bunch of sheep, and there's this next door neighbor's got this one little sheep named Lammy, and he loves Lammy. Lammy was in the house. Lammy slept with him. He loved Lammy the lamb. It was the best lamb ever. Everywhere he went, that lamb went, Lammy the lamb. And that guy with all those cows had some big shot come to visit him, and he went over to the neighbor's house and took Lammy the lamb and killed him and fed him. Ooh, David's mad. Oh, I'm going to get that guy. I'm going to get that guy. He's going to pay and pay and pay. And Nathaniel looked at him and said, thou art the man. Whew. Talk about sermon and shoes. Man, that was tough. I hope he gets this big DVR player in heaven. We can see this stuff. I don't know if there's going to be. I can dream. You can dream what you want. I'll dream what I want. I hope there is. We can see. I want to see that scene. But then again, I might just be hanging around with Jesus. Someone won't even care. Yo, David, yeah, you had a problem. Good. We don't care anymore. Too bad. When sometimes it falls to disappointment. When in Samuel chapter 17, Ahithophel saw that his counsel was not followed, he saddled his ass and arose and got him out of his house to his city and put his household in order and hung himself and died and was buried in the sepulchre with his fathers because they wouldn't listen to what he had to say. Sometimes when others don't meet our expectations, it leads to depression. That's why it's important to put your expectations on the Lord. I never get mad when someone fails me. You know why? They're human. Let me tell you something. I did this by accident. So, I've got this store manager. She is like a crackerjack, and none of you can have her. She took a $900 a day store and turned it into, let's just say round number, $2,500 a day store. Last week we shot $3,000 every day for a week. She is a psycho. She ain't married, and I know why, and she's got 2 cats. I said she's going to be the crazy cat lady one day. Okay? Very nice looking lady. She volunteered for us for 6 years before I hired her. Every day volunteered. She was a good volunteer. So, I thought she's got skills. I'm going to hire her. I had to pay her a lot of money. I had paid her enough money that the business manager I had got mad and quit. I don't mind I'll tell you because it doesn't matter because none of you work for me. I started out at $35,000 a year, which I don't know where you live, may not be a lot of money. But the average wage where we live, a good living wage is about $22,000 in southeast Missouri. I mean, you literally can rent an apartment with electricity, a nice place, a decent place, for $800 a month with electricity and your gas and everything's included in that. So, I mean, it's $22,000 a year. You live pretty good. I mean, you don't live great, but you live okay. But anyway, so I'm paying her above the, my business manager. Perfect example of what we're talking about. She got mad. You're paying her more than you're paying me. She's doing more work than you. you know, and she got mad and quit, and that's okay. I found out after she quit, she was in a relationship with a guy in the program, so there it is. Oh, yeah, and she was married. But anyway, so things you don't know. Sometimes you don't know. The Lord protected me from something I didn't even know about. Right? Right? Brother, are you still wanting to be around the rescue mission? That's what I say. Are you still with us? Where are you at, brother?
I'm here in Sioux City. I'm on the board.
Okay, you're on the board. What do you do? What do you do for a living?
I'm financial advisor.
Okay. Okay. Good deal. Well, I'm a big Dave Ramsey guy, so there it is. I'm debt-free. I did my debt-free screen. And you want to go on YouTube, you can look up Greg and Pam on, which I'll tell you, it's in April of, I don't even know, not that many years, about 4 years ago. Yep. We did our debt-free screen. Paid off $59,000 in 4 years. So, and yes, we ate beans and rice and beans. But we lived like nobody does, so we can live like nobody does. We have a good life. Life has been good. Life is good when you put everything in the right boxes. When everything's in the right box. Now, where are you at, sis?
Sioux Falls.
You're in Sioux Falls. What's your name?
Laura.
What do you do?
Kids youth.
Okay. Wonderful. I might as well ask everybody. I know you, Lenore. She's on the board. She's with Greg Wood in Wilmington, Delaware. Not Wilmington, Hartford, Connecticut. Excuse me. I always get you, they're so close together, I get them mixed up. And Mahalia, I know, is from Brother Tom's mission. And you are from Durham. Not Durham, you're from Downtown Ministries. And brother, where are you from? You're from Sioux Falls. What do you do? Good deal. Good deal. Anything that doesn't need to be done. What's your name again? That's what I thought we talked earlier. Anybody wants my card when if I have anything to tell you, I'll be glad to help you. I am working, my dissertation for my doctorate is on discipleship. On discipleship in rescue mission work. Because I see that's, and this all is tied together, so I'm not going too far afield. We talked about this in my class yesterday. I talk a lot about heart issues because it's a matter of the heart. If your heart is not in the right place, forget it. You know, okay, let me go back to the store manager I was telling you about, okay, because this ties in right back in where it was. So she borrowed the truck, we have big box trucks, a couple of them to pick up donations, okay? And she calls me, I wrecked the truck. Okay, calm down. What did you do? Well, she had some scaffolding she was donating to the mission, and it was nice scaffolding. I don't know what we needed it for, but whatever. She had it in her shed, and she had the guys take the big box truck and take it back to her area to load the scaffolding, like a rolling scaffolding like you use in a hallway to get up the, paint the top of the ceiling or something. So the neighbor's eave was down, I guess, a little bit. And so we have it's a big yellow Penske truck that's been repainted, but has our logo on it, United Gospel Rescue Mission. Well, the eave caught it and scratched a big scratch through the logo, right? I'm sorry. I said, calm down. Okay, there's a dictionary word for that. It's called accident. Did you mean to do it? No. Were you careful? I was trying to be careful. I said, so what? It looks really bad. Don't. Stop worrying about it. I never said another word to her. Okay. Then about 2 weeks later, we had some conflict. And I can deal with this lady, but she's kind of like me in a way, so I can deal with her. But she kind of goes over the top. Like I used to go when I was younger. I'd go over the top about stuff. So I learned, I just let her go. Like, okay, whatever you're going to do, you do. When you calm down, we're going to talk. But we're not going to talk right now. But when we calm down, you're going to talk. So she came to me. And she goes, I was rude to you. And I said, well, to be honest, you were. You were very rude to me, and I didn't expect to be treated that way. She basically told me to shut up in front of a bunch of employees. I just turned around and walked away. I said, you don't know what you're saying. I'm walking away. I'll see you later. Now, don't do what I wanted to do in my heart. I wanted to do, you're fired. Because you don't talk to the director that way. I don't let the men of the mission call me dude man. I have got, hey, dude. No, you don't call me, hey. I'm not, hey, dude. You can call me Pastor Kirk. You can call me Brother Kirk. You can call me the preacher. You can call me Dad. But you cannot call me by my first name. And you cannot call me out my name. You can't do it. It's a sign of respect. Tom Lehman's my friend. But when you see me talking to him in here, it's always Brother Lehman or Pastor Lehman. I give him the respect he gets, right? If I came to your mission, I'm never going to talk out his name. I just don't do that. We might be joking amongst ourselves. That's amongst ourselves. So anyway, she comes to me. She goes, I was wrong. She goes, I was wrong. And she says, I got to thinking, you could have killed me over scratching the truck. And all you said was it was an accident. Don't worry about it. She goes, I got to thinking, where on earth would I work, any secular job would I work, that they would treat me that way? Most jobs I'd have been fired. So thank you. I appreciate you. I won't do that again. We worked it out. So, people disappoint you. If we're not careful, you know why a lot of our guys are depressed and our women that we deal with, maybe even children, are depressed? It's because unmet expectations. I had this guy. I used to do this thing years ago that I had this little sheet you filled out, and you started wherever you were. If you were 20 years old, you started there, and if you're 30, you started there, and on and on. So what happened was, by the time I'm 30, I want to. Okay, by the time I'm 40, I want to. By the time I'm 50, I want to. By the time I'm 60, I want to. By the time I'm 70, I want to. By the time I'm 80, it goes on, we stopped about 80, a general lifespan. So I had this guy, by the time I'm 30, by the time I'm 40, I want to be a pilot for Delta Airlines. Cool. Pretty admirable, right? So I pulled in my office. I said, hey, cuz, notice you got a little bit of meth mouth problem there. How long have you done meth? Oh, about 15 years. Okay. How many times have you been in prison for that? Oh, 5 or 6. Okay. And what's your education like? Oh, I didn't graduate high school. You got your GED? I'm working on it. Okay. You're 35, right? Right. So in 5 years, you want to be a pilot for Delta Airlines? Yeah. Okay, let me bring some reality to you. Okay, you don't have your education. I happen to know, I don't know a lot about flying. I was in the Air Force, but I didn't fly. I did other things. But I know you have to have a lot of heavy math concentration to be a pilot. Okay, that's number one. And I'm not a math guy. I'm an English guy. Don't ask me to add numbers together, but if you ask me the 8 forms of the verb be, I can still say am, is, are, was, were, be, being, been. Okay, I know that there's 48 prepositions, and they're everything that a rabbit can do on a log. Okay, they can be to the log, it can be from the log. It can't be of the log. You can be about the log. You can be around the log. So there you go. There's your preposition lesson for the day. And I said, and the fact that you have 2 felonies is probably keeping you off an airplane, right? He got mad and was leaving the program. You know why? I killed his dream. I killed his dream. Dude, you got meth mouth. You can't even smile for the picture. Okay, we have to have realistic dreams, right? Realistic dreams.